All right, morning everyone. I can see quite a few people have joined, and it's great to see so many familiar faces as well and names. So we're right on 11:30. We'll kick it off. So welcome everyone who've joined us today, and I know you're still coming in. For those I haven't met, I'm Javanka Roberts, the Senior Manager for Client Partnerships in our ADI section. And joining me today is also Julie and Kenny, your Client Partnership Managers. I know it's been a while since I've spoken to a few of you since I used to look after the SAM group, but I look forward to catching up with you all, especially at COBA. So I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So why are we here today? In March, we announced the acquisition of a material controlling interest in Basiq, and we're now invited Basiq into our Cuscal family. And today we want to discuss how Basiq can help you change open banking from being that compliance burden into a business opportunity. Now, just some housekeeping before we start. So this webinar is being recorded. Now, throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, and hopefully you have quite a few, please add that to the Q&A. And otherwise, we will also be at COBA and also at Curious Thinkers, but hopefully we will get through a few today. At the end of this session as well, once we've gone through our presentation, you can also turn on your microphone and ask questions as well. That's totally fine. And at the end of this, we will also send out a short feedback survey just to gain your thoughts on what you thought of this. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my colleagues from Basiq. Today I'm joined by Adam, who is the Chief Commercial Officer, and Ben, who is our Head of Sales. Quick wave, Adam and Ben.
Hello. Thanks, Javanka.
And I'll hand over to you.
Awesome. Hello all, thank you for joining. Really excited today to be able to show you through a few things, but we thought we'd lean in and talk to you about more of CDR from an industry update perspective, give you a little bit of an overview of who we are and who is Basiq, a little bit of a demonstration and some recommendations. I'm Adam, and obviously this is Ben, and yeah, look forward to running you through the rest of the session.
Excellent. Thank you, Adam. And thank you everyone for joining today. So before we kick off, we just wanted to welcome Southwest Slopes Credit Union to Basiq, and we've got Jason Smith on the call today. So we're super excited about this new partnership, and we'd like to invite Jason just to talk you through how their experience was evaluating different solutions in open banking and where they're at on their journey to becoming an accredited data recipient.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. I think a good place for to start is to sort of understand our journey to where we got to today, and I think that started some time ago with the compliance aspect, which we've all had to undertake, and we really looked at that and seen that as only part of this journey for us, and we see that this is the next step in the whole CDR scheme, the data sharing. And it's really something that we see as the future for us. And it really is trying to unlock that user experience, I guess, from our lending side of things to start with, and then moving forward into other areas going forward. For us, there was a couple of real, I guess, benefits that we've seen with the Basiq offering. For us, the ability not to be an outright ADR and to be able to achieve the same outcomes as an ADR, but take away that compliance burden for us, which was a big win. And then we really wanted to partner with someone that understood open banking, I guess, and I think the Basiq guys will talk about it a little bit later, but they hold a huge market share in this space, and we see that as a real positive going forward with this partnership, that we can really get a good understanding of all things open banking. So to say that we're excited to come on board and participate in this way and give back to our members through a much easier process when it comes to the application. And there's lots of other benefits that we see that we'll also gain with that through some of our hardship applications as well. So there's lots of different things that we've got on the roadmap, I guess, for us that we're looking forward to. So that's sort of where we're poised to move forward with.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. And personally, I look forward to meeting you on the 18th, doing a road trip down to Young. So, and taking you and the team through Basiq and onboarding you guys and training you up. So looking forward to it.
We're really excited to have you come down too.
Excellent. I hear that cherry jam is where it's at.
If that's what you'd like to have, we'll see if we can have a sample for you.
As Jovanka mentioned earlier, we were recently acquired by Cuscal. One of the key attributes is strengthening that overall suite of services from not just your payment rails, but also financial data and combining identity together. We've seen some great success already with some of the current customers that Cuscal works with, and some huge opportunities that both our product and developers are working with. It's just going to be even more exciting. One of the most common questions we're receiving from what was that? Sorry, a bit of the background. Yeah. One of the most common questions we're receiving from data holders and ADIs is they've invested so much time and effort, but how can you actually reap the benefits of open banking? And so what we thought was, before we go into that sort of level of details, to give you a little bit more around sort of a recap on consumer data rights, CDR. And the key attribute there is the word consumer. Open banking is really, really important, and it's also important to reflect on why CDR was there, and it's to give consumer the control of their financial information. We have seen phenomenal adoption and trust now that CDR has been sort of moving through in its success, but we also see 4 core key areas for businesses that can leverage some wins out of this, which is innovating new products, generating rich insights, and greater data accessibility. But at the end of the day, is actually knowing your customer, or in your instance, a member. From a industry perspective as well, it's still very early stages of some adoption, but what we wanted to highlight here is there's 114 data holders, which represents actually 76 ADIs, but there's only 11 active ADRs. Energy providers have now entered the realm of being a data holder. Very, very early stages of that, but we're seeing some use cases popping up as we access that energy data on more sort of bill assessment. Should I be moving to a different provider by looking at my meter reading and that sort of thing? So that's quite interesting and exciting. We talked about, Jason mentioned sort of around accreditations. There's 60 CDR principal representatives at the moment, and actually 49 of those are utilizing the Basiq platform. But how is it actually performing? So our head of customer success, Alex Whiteley, has built some smarts in assessing data holders' success from a conversion perspective. So looking at things like their CX, their conversion rates, what's their adoption, abandonment, etc. And there's some interesting outcomes there, where there's some very nimble or agile bigger institutions that have the ability to throw lots of developers at them, like Upbank, for an example, that have a really, really high threshold of success. But we constantly see the leaderboard, if you like, changing and adapting based on usage and customers being more and more privy and used to what CDR is. The other attribute that we wanted to call out here on the bottom right-hand side of the slide is digital data capture. In some instances in the industry, it's known as scraping. It's still very prominent with brokers and mortgages with some previous platforms, and Basiq does have that ability as well. But we're seeing that there will be a shutdown coming very, very soon in that space, which we can keep you abreast to. So as an industry, it hasn't all been pretty. There have been some challenges. As I mentioned earlier, there has been a slightly slow adoption, and that's because of what we see is there's only really 11 sort of recipients. There was a lot of confusion, or still is, with some institutions on what compliance, what model should I actually be going on? How do I access that data? There were some initial data quality challenges from the data holders, which we've seen some significant uplift. And there was some negative impacts of churn and limiting growth opportunities for those actually that weren't participating. So some early adopters actually had the opportunity to flourish and win some market share quite quickly. The biggest wins that we're seeing come out of the industry at the moment, which we're very excited about, was Treasury investing $88 million over the next 2 years to make sure that the adoption of CDR is growing, it works and it grows. The improved in data quality that I mentioned, it's phenomenal. We're seeing most data holders, if there's a ticket raised, they're leaning in and wanting to make sure that their own customers don't have that impact or impacts to sharing data. And we've now worked out a way to accelerate access without extensive capex, as Jason mentioned earlier, instead of members like yourself, mutuals like yourselves having to invest so much money into being an ADR. But what's next? There's going to be the ban of scraping that we mentioned, so it changes the digital data capture. That's imminent, we've heard, and what that's going to cause is growth or adoption of CDR fast. Non-bank lenders are about to enter becoming a data holder as well, which will give you as a mutual even more insights into some of your customers' financial situations as well. But we're actually seeing now more data holders adoption of CDR. So there's going to be more growth that will give you the opportunity to have more of a customer value.
Just to let everyone know that if you want to ask questions, we will address them at the end. So just jump in the kind of Q&A section and jot them down, and we'll keep track of those.
Yeah, good point. A quick high level of Basiq. I really want to jump into a bit more of our demonstration today, but we're not a new kid off the block. We were founded back in 2017 by Demir, that you can see a photo of on the right-hand side there. We have 60 employees worldwide, so we're not just a small little development house sitting in little old Manly. But over that period of time, we've had over 2.5 million Australians share open banking data with us, and that's via the traditional digital data capture, but also via CDR as well. And we're seeing more and more of that transition coming across as we onboard more customers. Basically, Basiq was designed to give customers or consumers, members in your instance, more choice, greater control, and receive value. We do get asked from time to time, what's the word basic come from? Think of database and IQ. So Basiq is where the naming convention comes from. So at a quick glance, how does Basiq actually work? Think of us as like an aggregated infrastructure or a platform that surfaces up the ability for consumers to share their data in a compliant environment to you. So in this sort of flow chart here, a member of yours, you could be at a branch down the road, and they're wanting to say, hey, can you do a loan assessment for me? You can provide through your products the ability to access data via our consent. Our consent then in the back end will then plug into all the financial institutions. So all of those data holders and then we surface that data back to you in a way that you can read and write and understand what the banking data is surfacing up. At a very sort of holistic view of where we are as a platform, Basiq has over 120 actual businesses. So from fintechs, financial institutions, accessing and utilizing the platform. On the left-hand side there's just some key logos that we work with day in and day out across an array of our different products. And on the right-hand side, which is new to Basiq, we've developed a partnership program where we recognize that the ADIs in the market rely on some outsourced service providers to provide some smarts and intel into their lending decisioning. And so we've partnered with 6 partners that we've got on the right-hand side there to be open banking ready as an outsourced service provider. So accelerating access for ADIs to have access to open banking.
Thank you, Adam. So far we've covered a bit of an industry update as well as an overview of the Basiq platform and our customers. And now we're going to get into applying some of those CDR open banking use cases to a mutual, or a bank like yourselves. So one of the questions we often get asked when we meet with potential customers is, what are the use cases that can be enabled by open banking? We kind of like to flip that question on its head and actually kind of drill down into the current processes and maybe some of the challenges that you're facing in collecting data and visualizing and analyzing data across the bank today, and identifying those areas so that we can find open banking use cases based on those challenges. And I think the critical point on this slide, and it's referenced on the left with that consent tick, is that one open banking consent, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second, one open banking consent can enable you to unlock use cases across all of these different parts of a bank, from a loan assessment, whether that's a personal loan or a home loan, a credit card application, someone who's entering financial hardship, if you provide financial planning type services within your bank as well, within the various different locations, then all of these can be enabled by one consent. And we'll show you what that looks like as well in a demo.
Let me see you drive.
Yeah, so I'm going to get a bit closer to the camera. To the camera here. We're going to launch into a bit of a demo, which will help you to visualize the platform that Basiq's built. And the main thing I want to call out before I get into it is that this is a no-code integration. This works out of the box. We can spin this up for you, and you don't have to get any technical team or engineers to actually work on bringing this to life and getting this working within your branches. So what we're going to show you here is the Basiq dashboard, which you can manage consents and you can visualize some of the data that we provide. So what we're going to do is we're going to imagine that we're a member of your team that's sitting in a branch, and that maybe someone, one of your members has come in with a paper form, or maybe they've sent in an online application, and you're going to go through the process of collecting some of the supporting documentation. So using open banking to aggregate and collect all of that information that you would need to make that decision about a loan or hardships, or provide some kind of financial planning and advice. So I'm going to swap over here to the demo environment. So first, what you'll need to do is you're going to have to create a user. So Basiq's going to need to capture some high-level information about your member. So I'll go through here and I'll put in my name, then basiq.io, and a mobile number. I'll just put in a kind of mock mobile number there. So that user's been created, which means that Basiq and all the work that we do in the back end to pull all of their financial information into the platform is all captured under that one user, that member that you know. And in order to capture that information from them via the different data holders, whether that's from your own infrastructure or from other credit unions or banks that they bank with, we need to request for their consent. As you know, when you built out the data holder solution, you need to manage consents and allow customers to share their data. And so that's done here via a link. So what I've done is I've hit generate a link, and it's popped up here. Now this link can be sent via SMS to that member who may be sitting in front of you, or it could be embedded within an application form. So it's all part of that kind of seamless digital flow. There's lots of different options of how this can be kind of dropped in. So if we copy this link, you can send that out. In this scenario, what I'm going to take you to initially is our consent module. So consent is how you present information so that it's clear, so consumers know what data they're sharing with who and for how long. And I've rendered this consent to be customized to the look and feel or the branding of South West Slopes Credit Union. So that's obviously most obvious at the front here, where I've uploaded a logo. So I did this within this tab here, and I can actually display that logo across all pages of the consent UI. We also know that there's three things that are key to requesting consent. One is being clear about the data that you're looking to collect. So is it personal details and account details? Is it also a list of the accounts that they have, the balance of those accounts, and even down to the transaction level detail? And so you can configure the extent of the data that you want to collect on the right-hand side here. Secondly, there's the purposes, which is really the use case. As I mentioned, open banking can be used across the entire institution, but in asking for consent, you need to be clear with the customer what you're going to use it for. So in this instance, we've said assess your loan application and help you to manage your repayments. When we go and collect the data, we can get 2 years of historical transactions to run reports, but we can also get ongoing access to that data for up to 12 months or 365 days. That's really valuable if you issue a loan to a customer and you want to be able to monitor their affordability throughout that loan cycle, then you can continue to refresh the data and run new reports. Or if you just wanted to keep it for, let's say, 7 days, just while you're assessing them for that loan, you can do that as well. So that's all configurable in the dashboard. If we go across to the next tab, you'll see the list of institutions that are available. So these are the ones that Basiq can connect to. We cover about 99.7% of customer deposits out there in Australia, so it's extensive coverage. And finally, this is where we can start to customize this branding to make it feel native to your application. You don't want to send a link that then goes to kind of a generic screen, and so we've designed this whole module so that it can be customized without getting a developer or an engineer. I'm pretty non-technical, and you can go in here, and if you wanted to, let's say, have all of the coloring of the text to be the same color as the buttons, you can do that there. You can even change the color of the background and whatever you like. So it's highly configurable. So what we're going to go through now is we've showed you how you can customize the UI. We're also going to just briefly touch on the flow that customer will experience when they receive that link. So we go through to the next tab. They've clicked the link. This consent has been rendered on their mobile device, or if they've clicked it in a browser, it will appear in a browser as well. And this is the screen that I just showed you that's customizable and configurable to your branding. So if we press approve here, we're taken to that bank picker, and we'll select people's choice the banks with, and they're taken to a screen where they have to enter their member number. So this is purely via open banking. There's no web connectors or screen scraping, which is obvious by the fact that we're not asking them to share their password. So as you know, by your data holder implementation, you're not asking them to share their password. They just share their member number, and then the bank that they've selected will send them a notification or a one-time password for them to authenticate. So that will be received to their mobile device, and they'll punch in that MFA code, and now they're taken to select which accounts that they want to share with you. So here they'll select all the accounts that are available. There'll be a confirmation page here to confirm everything that they've consented to doing, and then that connection is successful. So they can go and select just one institution and a set of accounts as we've showed here, or you can have the ability to offer them to connect another institution if they, let's say, have a credit card with another provider or a home loan with another provider. All of that data will be aggregated together by Basiq. So that's the part of the demo which is really talking about how we can help you to capture data from a kind of front-end perspective to help your customers to share their data with you. The next part of the demo we're going to go into is actually visualizing some of that data within the Basiq dashboard. So this is a no-code solution. You can essentially just open the Basiq dashboard within your browser, within a branch, and access all of this functionality. So we've got a user here that's been created. This is myself. And if I click into that user, we'll see a list of all of the accounts that I have consented to sharing. So they've gone through, they've selected them all, and we can visualize them here. You can see on the bottom left-hand side the different connections that they have. Just in case you're wondering, Hooli is a fictitious bank, and that's basically the demo data that we're using to populate this for you. But you could have multiple institutions that are connected up under one user there. What we'll do next is we're going to run a report. So it's good to see all of the transactions digitally. It's definitely better than asking someone to share their last 2 payslips, or even provide a PDF of their bank statements over the last 3 months. It's designed to replace that type of data collection. But what's even more powerful is some of the reports that we can run. So I'll go across here into the reports section.
Just a moment, yeah. Ben, I think we're having some trouble. Is this not showing up on the screen? So we should be looking at the report screen now. Is that what?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I can toggle back across to the slides and then back to the report. So is that showing up?
Just show that to the audience. Are you all seeing the report screen?
Yep, I can see that.
No.
I've got yep, I've got Kenny and Sally are saying they can see it. Yep, I'm getting yeses now.
Okay.
All right. Good. Thanks, that guy. Sorry for interrupting.
That's all right. Very important to check. So it's not just a voiceover. You've got the visuals as well. So here, what we've done is we've got that user Ben that's connected up some of their bank accounts. You can choose to run a report as I'm demonstrating here. So you can name that report. You can set the date range and the user that you want to run. Here is one I prepared earlier, which is an affordability report. Now, in terms of the Basiq platform, we can obviously render these consents. We can reach out to the data holder and pull all of the data that customer has consented to sharing. But then effectively, we're left with a whole bunch of accounts and transactions, and that data needs quite a lot of transformation to be able to make it really valuable and useful for your use cases. So what we have done is we've built a set of algorithms to aggregate all of those accounts together, net off any internal transfers, and display a complete financial fingerprint of that member or customer. And so that's really broken down into 4 sort of key elements: income, expenses, liabilities, and assets. And so that's what we're visualizing here. For the purposes of this assessment, we've run a report from the 1st of July to the 30th of June 2023, so covering FY23. And the first page that you'll see here is a summary page. So this shows a list of all the accounts at this institution at the top part. And then we go into by sort of cherry picking those key data points that will be valuable for that assessment. One great example would be the average monthly amount from salary. So immediately getting a view of their income. They've only got one income source here, not multiple. So you can compare that very easily on the front page. We expose whether there's any government services, so Centrelink type income transactions, any financial commitments they have, so any loans or credit card limits, as you can see here. We then drill down into expenses, so we can show you the total spend on discretionary expenses as well as non-discretionary expenses.
I heard that in stereo. Sorry, just got to make sure.
Oh, I might just have to pop on it. Then we look into some risk metrics and risk flags. And something that's interesting here is, in this instance, in this data set, we haven't seen any expenditure on groceries, telco, or utilities. And so what that would immediately trigger to me is maybe there's another account that they have, which they are spending for these non-discretionary expenses, which they need to connect. And so this is how we can start to use this report to diagnose whether there's more data out there that we need that member to submit. I'll jump into income. And obviously salary is kind of the biggest portion of that. And so by just clicking this tab here, we're looking at income and the different that they've received over the past 12 months for this reporting period. So you don't have to collect 2 pay slips and try and figure it out. We've done all the analysis and we've identified that this is their regular income. If we go onto the expenses side here, we can look at discretionary expenses initially, and you can see a list of all of those categories there. We'll also flag what we're not seeing up the top here. So there's some automotive, children's retail and gaming, department stores. This is the kind of more detailed analysis. If you're, let's say you want to provide some kind of budgeting or financial planning advice to a customer, you can help to visualize this data with them like this as well. High risk activities as well, we'll flag, so ATM withdrawals or redraws, or you can just see a list of all of the expenses displayed here. So back to the summary page, this is essentially what we've got our banking customers using today to be able to automate the retrieval of financial data. Via a seamless digital consent, customers and members can elect to share their various accounts with you, and all of that data is pulled into this dashboard and visualized so that you can accelerate that credit decision. Perfect. Well, that's the end of the demo for now. We've covered those 2 components. One is the consent and how that's configurable, and secondly, we've covered the dashboard, which helps to visualize the data.
How are we going on time? All right. Okay. So hope you're probably all excited by what we just showed, but where to from here? How do you access open banking? Yeah, the first step is become accredited, right? So with an ADI, there's really only 2 options: is become an ADR recipient yourself, or access via like a sponsored model. So principal representative is an example. Then you've got to be able to sort of connect to the data. So what consent management are you going to use, what data insights, what compliance and security. And all of those can be quite challenging to work out how or what to do in regards to which accreditation. So we thought we'd just sort of summarize for you all what some of the challenges are as becoming a data recipient versus outsourcing to a sponsor like us, like Basiq. On the left-hand side there, we've got as an ADR, you would have to build and maintain just to become a data recipient. As you can see on the far right-hand side, outsourcing to a business like us, Basiq, we take on that whole burden of building and maintaining on your behalf. So Ben obviously went through the consent UI as a good example of how you can leverage just the functionality and the tools that we've built out to customize it yourself, but still remain compliant. Things like reporting obligations to the ACCC, liability and compliance sits with us, and also just even the how do I collect, store, use, delete, or even de-identify that CDR data? Outsourcing us as a sponsor can obviously help with those. We're going to pause there because we wanted to use this time to go through some Q&A. To get the sort of wheels in motion, we thought it might be good to sort of surface up a number of sort of frequently asked questions we come across when talking to ADIs. So there's 6 in particular there. Obviously, I don't want to recite those. You guys can read that up on the screen now. But we're going to have a quick look through the chat and see if there's any other questions that have come up that we could address for you all today. Let's have a look.
I think,
or feel free to unmute and ask.
Yeah. Hopefully everyone can remove themselves off mute if they want to go ahead and ask any questions directly. I think we can get started with maybe this question that I'm highlighting in the middle down the bottom, which is, I don't control my tech stack, so how do I integrate with open banking? So this is, something that we've considered a lot at Basiq. What sits behind the demo that I presented is a full suite of APIs where we've got hundreds of customers that actually integrate and pull those data fields directly from us. But from speaking with mutuals and banks and other institutions that don't have as much control over building API integration layers, is that there is a real need just to access that data and visualize that without having to embed any code or make any changes to your infrastructure. So the two real options there that we've been able to present is one, the no-code dashboard, which is what South West Slopes Credit Union will be onboarded later this month, which we've demoed. But also, as Adam mentioned, we work with a number of different partners or service providers that can help you with other things like that might be loan origination, it might be an identity solution, and it may be some other kind of workflow tool. And so if you use that today, we can actually plug into the back end of that solution so that effectively they're doing the integration for you, and it's all visualized through an experience or a service that you're already using today. So they're the kind of two options that that make it easy to consume open banking without having to make significant technical changes.
All right, I haven't seen anything come through. That's okay.
Nikki, have we got any that you can see that we're missing?
No, it's all quiet out there. Look, if anyone wants to just unmute their microphone and just ask a question out loud, please feel free.
G'day, Ben. It's Michael here from GMCU. Just a quick question. Does Basiq have a solution for both being a data holder as well as recipient, or I mean, say for us, I mean, we've got the Ultra Data solution at the moment for open banking. We haven't embarked on the data recipient, but is that something that you would provide as well as the recipient platform?
Yeah, really good question. So earlier when CDR was sort of launched, we made a business decision to make sure that we deployed a data holder solution. So understanding a lot more of the front end and the back end of how the data flow sort of works. So we currently provide the data holder solution for PCCU, which you saw in our demo, is that consent. So that's our infrastructure that we've built there. With the recent acquisition of Cuscal has a data holder solution that they have a number of ADIs utilizing today. There is a conduit of that sort of overlapping together holistically. So we don't build it out ourselves, customized. We've always been a very much a API platform, and they have obviously built that solution. So there is a partnership that you can leverage there, utilizing us as a recipient, and obviously Cuscal as your data holder. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does. Yep. Awesome. I've got one more quick question as well.
Yeah,
I mean, as open banking compliance requirements continually change over time, and is that something that Basiq will, I guess, provide? I mean, compliance to the ongoing ACCC mandated or CDR compliance as well?
Yeah, so from a recipient perspective, by all means. So as you can appreciate, it's being tweaked and changed.
Sorry, guys, I think we just lost you there.
Yeah, I've lost you as well.
Yeah. Yep, we got you back. Sorry, we missed that response. If you want to just repeat that response for us, that'd be great.
Okay, sure, no problem. It's a good question. So as a recipient, we will always maintain that compliance stature. We also sit on the advisory with Treasury in regards to CDR. So as you can appreciate, there's constant changes coming through, and we are constantly, obviously, adapting or adopting those changes and delivering those through our platform. So yes.
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Okay. And equally to that, Michael, on the data holder side, obviously there's changes that are implemented which impact your solutions, and Cuscal, as part of their data holder solution, they will continually update to make sure you're compliant.
Yeah.
Great question from Derek.
Yeah, just saw a question from Derek. Good question. The quick answer is yes, you could.
Repeat the question.
Yeah, so just to repeat the question, we have a third-party lending solution that uses screen scraping from a bureau, which categorizes transactions similar to your demo. So we could hopefully replace that service with the Basiq solution. So yes, that's correct. And we can also accredit you as an open banking recipient as well. And you can have that full, we call it sort of regulated data, if you like, as opposed to screen scraping. I hope that helps answer your question, Derek.
Yeah, and just to add to that, when we built out those decision metrics and income and expense insights, we did look at what was available and what was used out there in the market by other providers, to make sure that if you did use an existing solution today, that you could easily transition across to the Basiq solution and still be able to tap into those sort of key decision points and metrics that maybe your team is very familiar with using today. So yeah, it's a really good question.
The other part, just so you touched on a third party. So another way of accessing open banking is through outsourced service providers, which we did present earlier, where we've got some pre-integrated origination lending platforms that are open banking ready. So if anyone on the call has made that decision or currently works with an origination platform that you didn't see on the right-hand side, send them our way. We're more than happy to onboard them as an outsourced service provider. So that would help accelerate any form of integrations or access to open banking.
Perfect.
I think
we'll give the opportunity for anyone to jump off mute and ask, and if we don't get any, we'll answer one of the questions on the slide in a little bit more detail. So I think the questions on the right-hand side are an interesting one, and this has been raised with us in a number of our sort of institutional conversations recently. That there's a couple of options when it comes to accreditation, as we've presented. So there's go out and become an accredited data recipient, and there's a fast track option for data holders to become recipients. So that's one option, and we've spoken a little bit about the implications of that. The other option is using an intermediary like Basiq, which is what Southwest Slopes Credit Union has opted to do, and is something that we've done quite a lot. And the question here is there any difference in the actual data output in terms of what you receive as a data recipient, whether you are an accredited data recipient or whether you use a sponsored model? And the answer to that question is no. So all of the things that you've seen today in terms of the solution and the demo that we can provide, that is all consistent whether you are an accredited data recipient, an ADR, or whether you are sponsored. Additionally, in terms of you kind of using that data, so long as it's not being shared externally outside of the bank, you can still continue to actually kind of use and consume that data regardless of those access models. So yeah, we really want to provide you with the optionality if it's a core part of your strategy that you want to become an accredited data recipient and there's value in that for you, and managing that in-house, so we'll support that. But equally, if you want to kind of offload a lot of that burden and constant updating of the consent framework and all of those different components that come with reporting on data recipient components, then Basiq can provide that to you under our license instead.
Excellent. I'll just pause for a quick moment. Anyone want to unmute? We've only got one more piece to cover off, and that's it. Okay. Just as a wrap up, we wanted to sort of give our final recommendations and give you the opportunity to interact with us. So our final recommendations is really don't do it yourself. Lean on or outsource to an aggregator that's been doing this for some time. It's not easy to be able to consume that data and make sense of it, and that's where Ben was presenting earlier on our affordability assessment and the smarts and the computer science and that we put behind the scenes. Your compliance requirements, CDR reporting, consent management, it's all challenging. We've done the heavy lifting and we'll continue to do that, as Michael asked earlier. So that's something that we can do on your behalf. And to accelerate access to CDR, you can do that via a sponsor program, like a principal representative. That Southwest Slopes has taken that opportunity to do that. On the right-hand side there, we've put a couple of QR codes. You can visit our website. There's a ton of information there. We've got YouTube channels on demonstrations, a lot more of an overview of our products. And you can connect with myself or Ben on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out through the Cuscal relationship managers or directly to us if you'd like to have a one-on-one sort of discussion. We will be at Curious Thinkers, both of us, and also at COBA. So we look forward to meeting you all face to face. And Ben and I love a road trip, so hopefully we get to see you face to face. And I'll see Jason in Young in a couple of weeks. But thank you all for your time today.
Thanks, Ben and Adam. Sorry, was that a question? No, all right. Thanks, Ben and Adam, for your time. Hopefully the SAM group, you found that really useful. Again, like normally is the case, the minute we leave the call, we would think of a question. So if that is the case, please reach out to your client partnership manager. We're happy to do this presentation again, one-on-one as well. So whatever you think about, reach out to us and we can make it happen for you. Otherwise, we'll see you at COBA. Thanks a lot for your time today. Thank you for your energy and participation, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.